Hey there, film fans. I'm Jeff.
I'm Dave.
And I'm John, and welcome back to The Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll challenge one another to discuss movies, both new and old, with a strictly positive critical eye.
That's right. And to avoid lazy negativity, people, we have decided to make this episode a little bit of a drinking game. So anytime we say anything negative about this film or each other, you're going to hear this sound. Sound means we have to drink, people, and we hope you drink along with us.
So, pour yourselves a glass. And I'm not saying anything in case I accidentally ruin something from this movie. So.
All right. Cheers. This is our pre-show shot to get us drinking, to get us loose, people. Let's go.
Normally I'd throw a contextual joke in there, but I'm not. I'm playing it safe for this one.
This is
I think they drank more than we've drank in this entire show in that movie.
In the first scene.
You're right. So people, I said the word people already too many times this episode. I want to take it back. We're talking about Don't Worry, Darling today. I know you've heard a lot of things, and you're right. This movie is a social experiment to see just how many lens flares a director can get away with without their DP quitting.
Also, I think the
experiment. What was that?
The experiment, though, as well, was like they experimented with their press run, because what a press run this thing's had.
Well, of course.
Like, you've got director and actor supposed beef, like alleged beef. Olivia Wilde got served live on stage with, like, custody papers while promoting the film.
Yeah.
During a closed screening Q&A, mind you. Chris Pine tuning out during Q&A and becoming at least 50 memes. Harry Styles, it feels like a movie speech. And Spitgate, obviously, and one trailer.
Yeah.
Who needs trailers when you got this stuff going for you? Because the world went nuts.
Well, I mean, I and then of course with the rollout of the movie, you almost wonder, you can't not ask, like, was all of this beef and all of this stuff, was it just to stir up something to get people to talk about the movie? Because if all we heard were the critics, then nobody would go see this movie. Also, Harry Styles' concert, I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm in New York City and he was here for a month. It's all I was seeing on all the socials was Harry Styles concert. So it's almost like they needed to say, hey, he has a movie coming out too. If you guys like his concert, go see this movie. Bring your friends. I feel like they're trying to make this into an event movie, right? Like, yeah. There were a group of like 8 girls in front of me at the Sunday screening that I went to. That's all I have to say about that. I don't know. They were in.
Wow.
Anyway, okay, we're talking about Don't Worry, Darling, people. That's right. We're going to do our gripe of the week. We're going to try to keep it spoiler-free for a couple minutes. It's very difficult to talk about this movie without talking about spoilers, though, so we're going to open it up pretty quickly. But we will give you our initial takeaways. Did we agree with the critics? Do we think it's worth seeing? Did we have as much fun as this campaign clearly wants us to have, for better or for worse? We'll talk about it all, I'm sure. But John, mention our sponsors. Let's do it.
Carlos Barroso is our beer sponsor. cbarroso.beer is the handle. Give him a follow, give him a like, give him a love. You can find that in the show notes.
And while you're at it, give him some shit. Tell him to give us some shit.
Tell that man to send us some beer. Carlos! We also have an artist in residence, a musician. The artist always and formerly and forever will be known as Dasein. Dasein. You can find all that music available on all the usual platforms. Download, listen today. All right, guys. I just saw this movie. It just got
literally, you came straight from there to here.
Pretty much, yeah.
Do you wish you had some time to debrief a little bit, or? I
took my dogs for a walk and I heard somebody talking about it at this little park that I go to with their friends, and I'll mention what he said about it because I do think this guy said something that was kind of a good little condensing. Nice. Conversational anecdote about what this film was like. I've heard, everybody's talking about this right now, and if nothing else, it's doing it some favors because there were more people in the theater than I thought there would be for a movie that's this controversial in terms of it not being a very good movie. I feel like it's getting people to the theater, so I think they're going to make their money back.
Yeah. Also, apparently, this was filmed 2020 to 2021, somewhere. So I think they wrapped January, February 2021. So the question is, was it edits, reshoots? Was there a problem, or does Warner Brothers were they just trying to dump it when they had nothing else going on? Which apparently is now. Apparently, they only have 3 movies coming out this quarter. Anyway, we don't know. It's all speculative, I guess, at this point. But let's do our gripes really quick so we can get some shit off our chest. John, you still have a drink buzzer up that you gotta get a drink or something.
Just quickly before the gripes, did you know yesterday was a very special day? It was the 35th anniversary of The Princess Bride.
Oh shit!
And
nice.
the 47th anniversary of the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
What? They came out the same day?
Same
Have
day.
fun storming the castle.
Same day, similar films, you know?
Oh my god, what a great film. Both of them.
Both of them.
Princess
Both
Bride
of those shaped my childhood in very different ways.
Yeah, Dave is wearing female panties right now.
They're so comfortable.
Okay, we'll talk about Olivia Wilde and all this kind of stuff in a second. Do either of you have a gripes? Come on, you guys got to be storing up some gripes by this point.
Back to Jeff's gripe of the week.
I've got a gripe. Can I have two?
Yeah, please.
All right. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah.
Do you have a gripe, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean.
All right, you go, then I'll go, then I'll go, then you go, then I'll go.
Okay, go.
All right. Sure? Okay.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers is at it again. They've canceled the animated show Final Space for tax purposes. The problem was, seriously, it's a tax dodge again. The problem is this one wasn't a show that was being produced. This was a show that was 3 seasons in. They've created 3 seasons of this thing and then just decided to shaft it, but it's licensed to Netflix. So basically they're waiting for the Netflix license to run out. This show is toast. And as it turns out, seasons 1 and 2 did not have a physical media release. So the Netflix, the Warner Brothers accountants are literally canceling this show and erasing it from existence because it will never be fucking shown anywhere ever again. And no hard copies of it exist anywhere. That's fucking terrifying. Stop this shit.
Yeah, this is bad.
Wow.
That's bad.
Dude.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I'm mad about it.
I'll buzz you anyway because I want to see you drink, but
and buzzing
that's
Warner
part of the
Brothers.
gimmick for the
wow.
Yeah.
Did they get acquired recently?
Discovery bought them.
Yeah.
So it's Warner Brothers Discovery now. No, Discovery's running the ship now. Basically, all the executives from Discovery moved in. They kept 1 or 2 from Warner Brothers, and they're just they're going nuts. They're doing weird shit. There's a rumor flying around at the moment they're going to do with the shows they've got left, a Titans Stargirl crossover. Now, I don't know if you've seen those 2 shows, but Stargirl is family, wholesome, that sort of thing, and Titans, Robin's running around going, fuck Batman. So, the 2 tones just don't match at all, but there was a photo taken with all the cast members in the same, a couple of the cast members in the one place, and I'm like, what are they doing?
Somebody saw a spreadsheet and they were like, this could make money.
You know what? I'd watch it just to see Stargirl tell someone to go fuck themselves.
All right, well,
yeah.
There you go. I mean, I did notice, since we're not really the gripe, but I wanted to ask you guys if you saw the trailers, because the only trailers that were in front of this movie that I saw were Shazam and Black Adam and other superhero-y things. And I was like, what? Am I in the right movie? I was like, what's happening?
I think they want the demo. They want young people.
They're the only movies Warner Brothers can afford to release. Like this one.
Warner, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. This was a Warner Brothers film, and Shazam and Black Adam are both Warner Brothers films as well. So they front loaded with their own superhero stuff.
I think that's it. I think those are the only other 2.
Yeah, I actually liked the new Black Adam trailer because it wasn't just all jokes. Yeah, it was there was a little bit of story in there, and they hinted at a bit of conflict and some other stuff, and I was like, okay, this might have more to it than I thought.
Are they also releasing that the female exorcist movie? You remember where she's the nun who becomes an exorcist?
Is that one Warner Brothers? I can't remember.
Exorciser, whatever you would call it.
Sure.
I saw that one was that one, and then a few of the superheroes.
Yeah.
Anyway, well,
I don't think it's Warner Brothers.
Jeff, let's hit it, dude.
Really quick. It's a quick one today. It's a quick one.
All right,
go ahead.
Time starts now.
All right, British people. There's no F in the word lieutenant. There's no F. I know it's weird that it's spelled Lou, L-I-E-U, Lou in Lou, and then you use the Lou, which is L-O-O. I know that's strange, but lieutenants, where the fuck is that F coming from? Now, we have weird shit. I know that the English language doesn't come from America, it comes from England. I get that. And I know that we say words like yacht that aren't from America. I know that there, and there is confusing. I know that aluminium is confusing for people. I know read and red are weird. I know that if you add one letter to R, it turns into area. None of this makes sense. I get it. I before E, except after C, unless you weigh your neighbor's horse's neigh. And happens there, whatever. Like, I understand that this shit's confusing, but you're literally adding F's. Like, even Oregon, we'll call it Oregon, even though it's very clearly spelled Oregon, but adding an F? Get the fuck out of here.
Just beaten by the timer.
Where did it come from? I want to know the origin of that.
Rings of power. You know what? And I know that in America we are updating history to, at least in the way we portray it in the arts for reasons that we believe are productive. But Rings of Power being nostalgic for that fucking F in Lieutenant, where they're like, "Congratulations, Lieutenant." I'm like, what the fuck is that? 1917. I thought I was a pretty well cultured person.
We're gonna have to release
Lieutenant
we're gonna have to release
100
a
times
video
in that movie, and I was like, what the fuck is a lieutenant?
We're gonna have to release a video on the etymology of this word.
Where did the F come from?
I'm sure there's a reason. There's got to be like a reason.
No, because it's not even an accent thing. Like nobody I know from New Jersey, I'm from New Jersey, has ever said Joyzy. We've never said it. It doesn't make any sense. I think it came from like New York City accents when like newsboys danced, where they would say like a goyle, like when they say RL, like they had lisps because they didn't have speech language pathology back then. But like, so goyle, Joyzy, I guess that nobody from New Jersey says that, but like, they say an F. It's ridiculous. These are supposed to be cultured people. Get the fuck out of here. Read a book, you know?
It's gonna be a quick one, Dave. It's gonna be a quick one.
No, just I'm gonna skip my second one. I'll save it.
No,
sure?
Dave, slap the second piece of bread on this sandwich. Let's see.
We're gonna talk about Don't Worry, Darlings, people, but in 1 minute. Dave, hit it.
All right, so I get to the theater just on time. And I'm like,
you
know what? I'm gonna give myself.
Yeah.
I was told not to get popcorn because I've still got that tooth thing. It gets pulled out this week, and so I'm like, I'm gonna get some M&Ms. I'm gonna get myself some peanut M&Ms. So I got them, and I stood in the line, and there was one person in front of me. 8 minutes fucking later, I'm still standing there in the Premier line. Like they're letting people through on the other thing because they've only got 2 registers running. And I'm like, well, what the fuck am I paying for if like, you know, like you don't get the Premier line anymore because these people are just taking their fucking time at the Premier line. And it's not any person's fault. It's the fact that there were 2 people staffing an entire fucking candy bar for 25 theaters. Like, what the fuck, dude? You're understaffing your theater. If it takes me 8 minutes to get a packet of fucking M&Ms.
Have you guys noticed that like I have often found myself now in lines and the Premier line is longer than the regular line?
Yeah.
Because they're doing such a good job getting people on this plan.
I mean, they tiered the plans. Let's tier the lines.
Like,
Yeah.
I really need to start taking advantage of the order your refreshments ahead of time. I never do it.
Right.
I should start doing it.
Yeah, that's true. That would have solved my problem.
All right, let's talk about Don't Worry, Darling, people. Good vibes all around. So this is directed by Olivia Wilde. It's her follow-up to Booksmart, her first movie, which I saw twice and I really liked.
Yeah, that's good.
I haven't seen it.
So just to be clear,
Dave, you're gonna like that movie. I think you will like that one.
I say let's do our initial reactions and then maybe touch up a couple of the story things that are happening too, because I think those will segue into what happened in this movie. Largely recasting the male lead and the problems with the female lead. I think that might be informative when we talk with spoilers about what. Anyway, we'll see in a second. If you've seen this movie or haven't, I think that's the right thing.
I mean, as of today, 30 cast and crew have signed a thing saying there was no incidents on set. So
okay.
I don't know.
Again, maybe they stirred all of this up.
Yeah.
No, the Shia LaBeouf thing though is real.
Oh, that's real. Yeah.
And Harry Styles getting cast late, and so therefore, what I imagine is the whole British subplot thing, which I know is not a huge part of this movie, but very clearly they were doing things on the go with this movie. Yeah, and 100% Olivia Wilde was not on set when they filmed some things. There's no way that was. Anyway, it doesn't matter, whatever. Okay, so our initial takeaways after I read the IMDb description, of course, it stars Florence Pugh, Harry Styles, Chris Pine, Olivia Wilde is a star in it, Gemma Chan's in this, Nick Kroll, et cetera, et cetera. The pitch, it's 2 hours, and it is a 1950s housewife living with her husband in a utopian experimental community, begins to worry that his glamorous company could be hiding disturbing secrets. What are your initial takeaways? Spoiler free. It can be short. It can be long. That's what she said. I still do that. That's what she said, Joe. Also, happy birthday, Matt, from the Matt and Mark Movie Podcast. All right, people.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Matt.
Woo.
What was your initial takeaway of this film? John, you just saw it. You're fresh. Dave just did 2 rants. Go ahead. What do you got?
I think it was a conglomerate of some pretty cool ideas that are not necessarily original ideas that when applied, I don't think it worked. Sure.
I'm just gonna say right now, I couldn't have said it better myself. That was like the most. I would have taken 4.5 minutes to say that, but that's exactly how I felt. Dave,
there's things that I liked about it. We're gonna get there. There are things I liked about it.
Good, me too. I'm glad. Good.
Ultimately, I understand why the critics. I'm not gonna be mean about it, but I don't think it worked.
Ding, ding, ding. Great, Dave.
Fuck the critics. This was great.
Oh, good. I'm glad. All right. Well, this is great. This
I
is why
enjoyed the hell out of it.
Yeah, this is why. This is why. Keep coming back, people.
One of us that fights for things.
This is like Noah all over again.
Like with the critics, especially. Like one of the criticisms was, Harry Styles had trouble sticking his accent. It's like if you're going to review a movie, watch the whole fucking movie. Obviously, they weren't paying attention. The 2 times they literally said he was British.
Yeah, so, I thought they covered their bases. Yeah,
I do. I'm
not saying it was perfect, but it's not enough to sink the movie for sure.
Well, finish your short review, and then I'll put a pin in that because I want to ask you a question about that. If you might know an answer to it that I don't know, but keep going.
No, I mean, I went in with, again, it helps to, I guess I went in with low expectations because I'd heard that it was reviewed badly. There was a whole heap of drama leading up to it that everyone was more interested in than the actual film. It did well on its opening day, but I just sat back and I waited for the story to happen. If anything, I'd say this was like Suspiria light.
Yeah.
It has a very similar tone, just different outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And I knew there was going to be a twist, but I don't think I saw that coming. Like where it went.
There's definitely a lot of I as soon as I started listening to like 1 or 2 like reviewers talk about this, I was like, I shouldn't listen to this because I feel like everybody's going to be saying similar things. But there are a couple stock movies, which I actually don't want to say right now because they would be spoilery, even though everybody else is saying them. You know what I mean? But there's like a couple staple movies that are very obviously inspirations for this. Also, we should say the script was on the blacklist, as was Booksmart, by the way. So the Van Dyke brothers, Carrie and Shane, wrote the script. It was on the 2019 blacklist, and then Olivia Wilde bought it. And Katie Silberman, who wrote Booksmart, was hired to correct. She's given the only official screenplay credit. The other 2 just have the story credit, but it's very clearly like a reworking of their scripts that Katie Silberman did for Olivia Wilde. So the Bookmark team is back. They're going all in for the 1950s Stepford Wives kind of thing where the women don't work and the men go to work and nobody knows what they actually do. They drink a whole lot of whiskey every night, as John has alluded to. The woman just cleans and cooks dinner. That's like they say utopian, right? But that's your idea of utopia.
They've got some ballet as well to keep them fit and stuff.
The ballet class, very interesting. And then the soundtrack is supposed to be that from that time period exclusively. They didn't go full like Kubrick of this time period, obviously, but they're trying to.
Again, we'll get back. I'll come back to that as well.
Okay. Is the thing that you were going to say spoiler free with the accent? I mean, we can keep it. Who knows who's even listening right now?
No, I guess it's not spoiler free. I can bring it up right now. There was a part of me that wondered because I wouldn't have been able to pick Harry Styles out on the street. Like I might be one of the only people on planet Earth. I don't know who he is outside of I know he's in One Direction. I know he's this giant superstar. I've never really seen him before, like consciously. I'm sure I've seen him on billboards and stuff, but I didn't know that was him. So I'd never heard him talk. I had never heard him sing. I've never heard anything come out of his mouth before.
Wow!
But I did know
you've heard him sing. You've heard Watermelon Sugar before. You've heard it. You've heard Watermelon Sugar.
But I didn't know it was him.
Yeah.
So I will say that I was at first wondering if he was trying to dampen or lessen or actually do an American accent. So there was a part of me that was wondering if at certain points they were thinking, yeah, he's doing his version of an American accent. And then in post, they said, shit, we need to shoot a scene that justifies the fact that it's not very strong. Because it also didn't sound like most of the British accents I've encountered in my life. I'm not British. There's a million dialects. I could just be way off the track here. And he's a superstar. So I'm sure his accent may have morphed over the past 15 years of his superstar life being outside of Britain. But it was a little strange to me. So I could understand how some critics were a little distracted by whatever was happening with his accent. I don't know if that's what he sounds like normally. Is it? Is that what he sounds like in interviews?
He sounds like the English is a lot thicker, like the British accent.
So I guess I would have wanted to know, like, why didn't they just? Okay, so I guess that was a little distracting for me. It did sound like he was trying to do an American accent sometimes, and other. But I know the character.
It's the same thing I do with my Aussie accent on this show.
So let's pause right here.
You gotta play it up for the crowd, Dave. You gotta play it up for the crowd.
Let's pause right here.
My
and
mom loves Dave's accent.
Spoiler alerts. Spoiler alerts.
Okay, it's time for spoilers.
Now. Okay, so we liked it better than most.
Hold on.
And it was kind of fun. I don't know.
Because this is going to give away a spoiler. Is it implied from the last big sequence where they reveal information that he's not British and he chose to be British? Is that what we were supposed to think?
Yes.
Yeah, we don't want to spoil too much, but
okay.
Yeah. So
spoilers are well and truly on.
All right.
Okay.
All right, sure.
Okay. Let's. Okay. We'll spoil for real. We're not going to tell you James Bond died right off the bat, but we'll get into the spoilers. Okay. Let's skip the ending and knowing what we know kind of stuff, because obviously we're going to spend a lot of time talking about that. Let's just say, so they open it up as like kind of a suspense thriller. Obviously, we knew there was going to be some genre. I don't know how sci-fi it was going to be or not, but like it was very clearly those Black Mirror episodes where they hide the tech, and they just like, they want it to be as human as possible, even though you obviously you can't relate to this actual reality, but you can relate to the behavior within it. Did the tone and the suspense work? Was Act 2 a little slow for you? It was obviously a little slow for me. That's why I'm bringing it up. But like, I was kind of into the original hook of it. I didn't think we went full, not genre. We didn't go full time period for me. So like, I could have used more. I could have used way less fucking lens flares on Chris Pine's face. Like, let's just see him. We get it. If it was just once and it was hiding him, and they did like the weird anti-Gatsby thing where you see Leo with the raising the glass. No, but like the lens flare on him for the entire scene, and then the camera's changing angles and the lens flares moving around the screen. That was really fucking weird for me. But at the same time, the idea of everything going on, that was so strange. But the idea was cool for me. So what about you? Did the tone, that kind of stuff, get you going, or were you asking questions too early?
I think it worked for Dave. So Dave, why don't you tell us what's up, dude? By the way, and Matthew Libatique is no slouch. He's an incredible cinematographer.
The DP, yeah, a couple Oscar noms, yeah.
So this was Olivia's choice, So that was definitely. I'm sure they had that. You have that conversation with directors. Are we going prime? Are we going to try to stay away from these things? Or are we going to go anamorphic? Or are we going to go longer lenses and try to invite that kind of flare language? And that was her decision, I'm sure. I bet he didn't say, "I'm doing this or else."
No, it would have been a back and forth between them. They wouldn't, like, you do camera tests, you do all that stuff to see if it's going to get the look you want. But I feel like all of this was done on purpose because they were hinting from the get go.
Oh, for sure.
Like like basically the reveal at the end, because like the color, like the color of the whole thing, it's bright, it's vibrant, it's like all the outdoors are really bright and sunny. The color is all there. It doesn't look 50s at all. Again, the film doesn't look it either. Like nothing looks 50s.
Doesn't sound it. They
doesn't
really
sound it.
Their dialects.
Yeah. So it, like, I feel like it's one of those ones where once you know the twist, you go back and you go, oh my God, it was right in front of me the whole fucking time. And that I love that.
Dave, I would agree with you more because I'm not disagreeing entirely. I do think they were doing that intentionally. But the flare that bothered me the most when I was watching it, and then as the movie went on, I started thinking, what you're saying, Dave, is the first time she approaches the headquarters, literally walking up to the mirror wall, that glass entrance. The flare was huge as she approached it and she stepped under the shadow. So there was a moment where I was like, what is happening? And then I started thinking, because I think you know what's happening by that point. I started looking for ways that they were going to use cameras as though they were being witnessed somehow in this weird experiment kind of thing. And they didn't do that at all. So I think if they had gone in that direction to say, like, yes, we are filming you. Like, this is being observed. There is something false about this that is under some kind of observation. But they didn't do that. So the flares just stayed a part of the cinematography for me. They never went into the story commenting on the cinematography.
There were a couple drifting around that I was like, well, that's, because especially when you got like the half flare and you just got the dark spots.
Exactly. That's what I was noticing.
And I was like, is that a film error they left it in?
Also, if I'm being specific, knowing the ending too, if this was I'm going to say it. I'm going
Yeah.
to say it. We're
Exactly.
we've already spoiled this, right?
Yes.
We've already spoiled this.
Yeah.
James Bond is dead. Yeah, say it.
James Bond's dead. If this whole movie's a simulation, there wouldn't be any lens flares. We're not.
Yeah, that's what I couldn't stop thinking about. That
It doesn't make any fucking sense.
If they're not going to play with the fact that, because for a while I was like, is this a video game? Is Chris Pine making this, and he's literally following them around and observing them and watching them inside this code that he's written? But since they didn't go there and didn't make it that specific and physical, I did feel that way the whole time, Jeff. I felt like, why does this feel like a movie? This should feel like
like EVE Online, Elder Scrolls Online, fucking lens flares everywhere, dude. Like these simulation games have fucking lens flares. It's the new style.
All right,
fair enough.
Cool. Okay,
fair enough. I didn't know
that the ray Abrams has set a rule. Everybody's
now the ray trace like elements can handle it. Like they fucking throw them in everywhere. But
Sure.
What do you think of the audio mix?
I should sit back because I didn't see it in a fancy theater like you guys.
I didn't see it in a fancy theater either. I saw it in it was a very well calibrated, normal, large theater at AMC. Cool. So like it was really good, 7.1 basically, and it was. So I don't want to comment too much on the mix. Did you notice something in IMAX that was distracting?
No, not distracting. It was fucking amazing. There was all this layered sound imagery underneath it. Like some really interesting like choice of effects, like things scraping over shit, stuff to just like.
Well, they had time because they wrapped this movie 22 months ago.
But it was buried in there, like in amongst layers of other sounds, just to make you feel uncomfortable. And I responded to it really well. I dug it.
I think my favorite thing about the mix was the panning. There was a lot of fun panning that they did where it would either live or begin in extreme right or left. And I bet in IMAX or Dolby, it probably did some really fun things in the back corners too. So I enjoyed that. It got my, I was perking up. My ears were a little bit raised whenever it would do that. Some of those effects that I think you're talking about, just in general, there was definitely a heightened realism with a lot of the sound effects. The eggs would not sound like that. Like they went way over the top with it.
Oh yeah, the eggs were so loud.
Well, it's like The Matrix. Why does everything taste like chicken?
Well, that's one of the movies that this gets compared to.
Excellent.
That's what one of the The Matrix, The Truman Show, The Stepford Wives, and
it's all of those mashed up, basically. Yeah.
Great Black Mirror episode. As I say, I've said that's 10 different times in this podcast, but.
Honestly, no.
John,
I mean,
John, what are you typing? John, what are you typing? What are you looking up?
I was typing in. I was trying to find. There's a wonderful anecdote in Sidney Lumet's book on making movies called where he just talks about the difference between drama versus melodrama, and I kind of couldn't stop thinking about how we haven't seen a lot of melodrama in contemporary series-driven television, which is where a lot of us watch our drama. Like I think a lot of us that we're not going to the movies as much. We're watching. Which, by the way, I'll just plug this. I think this would have done much better as a series than a movie. Kind of can't believe she passed on an opportunity to get a creator credit and walk away from this thing, because I think it could have lived and it had legs to be something else. But I felt like this was like pure melodrama. It was almost as though the emotions and the plot were more important than believably authentic, character-driven behavior. And it helped when I started putting on that hat. When I was like, I'm not supposed to think this is happening right now, today, with all the normal things. It's not at all the same tone, but it's kind of what you start to feel about halfway through The Village when you realize, what's going on? Why don't they all have the same dialect? Why don't they all? You start to put those pieces together. And as soon as I started looking at it like that, it made me think about this, and tell me if you guys agree.
You start looking for a guard in a shack to tell you exactly what's going on.
Somebody tell me what's going on. It started making me think, like, if 20 years from now somebody watches Olivia Wilde's Canon, I think they're going to enjoy this movie way more than we are today. For people who don't like this movie, for people who have issues with it, I think there's something about what is happening right now with content that the way these ideas were pushed together and put out there, I think a lot of people are not conditioned to watch that kind of thing. And I also don't know if that was her intention, if she nailed it, to be totally honest.
That's the thing I'm very curious about. Like with a lot of the negative reviews this got, were those reviews by men? Because there's some confronting shit at the end of this. For,
there are women who are not happy about their views of feminism on this, which I don't even know if like we should talk about. I saw feminism, second wave feminism, anti-feminist. I've heard all these things that I was like, I'm not qualified to talk about any of these things on a podcast. But there are definitely a lot of women who, even the simulation idea, they almost think that they shot themselves in the foot. Very, very simply, like write down the canon. If this is set in modern times, don't make her a doctor, because a doctor would never wish to be that instead. You know what I mean? Like, and also like she wouldn't be struggling. She would dump him. I know it wasn't a choice. But like the misery that they have as a couple just isn't clicking with people.
Oh, I've been in one of those. That clicked with me. We're great.
All right. Yeah. And I guess the idea that, you know, not even just Florence, because I know it wasn't her choice, but I'm not qualified to talk about the feminism aspect of this, but I don't think they didn't go full that, you know, and I actually turned back to the guys in this, because if you know, like, who was it? One of the Daily Show guys was talking about like Leonardo DiCaprio went full racist in Django Unchained, but it was necessary to see. Like, so many people have messed up that trope, and Leo was like, I'm going full I know that's a weird comparison for this, but in this case, the guys, and part of the reason, and Shia LaBeouf quit because he didn't get rehearsal time. And I think that, you don't want to oversell it, but none of the guys, they clearly didn't rehearse together. And if this really was a simulation, then all the guys would have been on the same page. So Nick Kroll, for instance, was like, he was really out on his own. He was like, is he the comedic support, but he's also kind of supposed to be douchey because of that, and they really left him high and dry. But if all of the guys were just like, oh shit, the women are fucking up our story, and if they were able to do that in a way that wasn't obvious, but we knew something was going on with the guys, they played against it so much that it was closer to the Stepford Wives, which again is fine. But if they wanted this to be a feminist film, you got to pay more attention to the guys in this to help sell this. And I know that seems crazy that I'm like, it's about the men. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is Florence Pugh was on a fucking life raft, and she said, Nick Kroll, can you help? And he said, I'm trying. And then the other guys were worthless. I can't even tell you a single thing about the other guys in this movie. But if they were all on the same team, it would have been a little clearer for me.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I think Chris Pine knew what movie he was in.
So did Gemma Chan. There's something behind Gemma Chan's eyes that was very like, okay, are we in Blade Runner? Are we in one of those?
This is the recasting happens all the time, and y'all feel free to fill me in on some things I don't know about Shia LaBeouf. I heard a little bit about it, but what Shia or somebody with his type would have brought to this role is an inner conflict that Harry Styles doesn't have the skill to portray. It's nothing against him.
Certainly not with a month of time. He had a month.
Yeah. I mean, I don't hold that against him at all. It's just come on. This is tough. That's a really tough thing to bring out of your work. The subtlety that's required so that it's very clear but not indicative. Neither existed for me. It wasn't clear and it wasn't alluded to. I had to have the writers tell me that, and then the editors shove it down my throat at the end of this movie so that it made sense, because I didn't see any of that conflict at all. So that was the one thing that knowing after the fact.
As we go about halfway through Act 2, I started to see him like kick in a little bit.
All right, yeah.
When they were in the car and she's getting dragged out, like, is that what you're talking about?
I mean, no, that was all her. Like that, this movie was all Florence. For starters, like they focused deliberately on the women, like, but her performance was fucking phenomenal. She does, like, it's almost like they go, oh, here's the character, and she liquefies and pours herself into it. Like, just these little facial tics and business she gives herself. I love that.
She did. The only, you know what?
But again, she was
so good, and she's a singular, like, wonderful actor. It kind of I was very distracted in this movie, which is never a great sign. I couldn't stop thinking about like how I just didn't. I know they had a lot of juicy sex scenes and kissing scenes and touching scenes and a lot of intimacy, physical intimacy in this movie. I didn't buy them as a couple for one millisecond. And it kind of made me keep thinking about these excellent movies with really strong leading women, and how important the supporting male characters were to make it believable that they had a relationship that was, unfortunately, this is a movie that falls into this group. This is a movie where a woman is at the center of it, and the core of her issues revolves around her relationship. We can talk about the feminism and that if we want to or not, but I didn't buy that they were. I didn't buy that there was any kind of You know, when you look at a fucked up couple and you ask yourself, why are they still together? And you can kind of recognize that poisonous thing that's at the center of it that is keeping them together. And both of them have a little version of that, which is why they're still in it. I didn't even see that, which ultimately, when you see what this movie is saying about they weren't really good together, I didn't see what kept them together in the real world.
I wanted something dangerous about it.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't think they were going to be together in the real world. That's why he did this. He knew she was going to go.
They were married.
Yeah,
like I just
they weren't married. They were just together.
They were living together. Okay.
Yeah.
The only criticism I have for casting Florence Pugh is that, I know this shouldn't matter, but the whole movie builds to this information that is delivered to you at the very end. It took me out of it for a second. She looks young and acts young and has a very youthful energy. And I did not believe for one fucking second that she had gone through 12 years of training to be a doctor. That distracted me. She was supposed to be a veteran doctor who had been doing that for, I get the sense that was like her job. She was not in a residency.
Well, I said that before. We're saying similar things, but different, where I was like, not that nurse is more befitting her station, because that's obviously so demeaning to say, but I'm with you in the sense that there's just
like 26 years old, right?
There's something about the choice of a doctor who just did 12. She just did 12 surgeries and has to be up the next day, which is fine, but hates her life. So therefore, the guy is. I know that they're trying to make it seem like he's like a Joe Rogan bro. You know, maybe like on 4chan and stuff, and he's a gamer, and they didn't really lay that in enough. But I didn't buy that for what it's worth. And I'm still with you, John, for what you said before, where I had fun. And Dave, I'm not trying to yuck your yum, but I do feel like that could have been a better choice. I'm not saying that would have saved the film for me, because there's still a lot of these kinds of questions where I'm like, what is the plane? Did somebody die? Was that a hallucination? Like, these things don't really matter that much, but it's like they spent a lot of time on it. Like, I hope we can at least play with them a little bit, but it's like, is it even necessary to talk about the plane? Is it necessary to talk about the kid? I guess not. I feel like the choice of a doctor is one that was a very simple choice that could have been.
I did kind of like, I was like, where the fuck did that plane come from? Like, who sent that plane in the simulation?
And I like seeing it go through the simulation, right? Where the little wobble, so you could tell, like, okay, great, that's there. But was it another person? Because then as soon as they said, if you die in this, which is very Matrixy, right? If you die in this world, you die in the real world. I was like, okay, well then it can't just be somebody dicking around in a plane and crashing it, right? Because then they die. Like they just didn't give us enough for that, I guess.
Yeah. Do you guys have it? I mean, not that we need to like have a deep conversation about it, but that made so little sense to me that I kind of just tried to dismiss it after the fact, because I don't understand how it existed.
It was literally a device to get her off the bus. That was probably, in hindsight, that's a cheap moment.
So unfortunately, this movie for me, and I can't help but yield to David Lynch and people like him who seem to live in this world of strangeness, and they seem to be, they really breathe that oxygen. There were so many. I'm not going to say that it's hard to talk about, but there are certain traits that seem to be important when you're dealing with abstract material. Subtlety is not always your best friend. Specificity and clarity need to be delivered. You know when you're in a weird moment with David Lynch. You know that like there is something happening that is supposed to be affecting you a certain way. It's not supposed to be clever. It just happens. And I felt like every time something strange happened in this movie, I felt like they were like, isn't that strange? Isn't that weird? And it didn't help that there was a lot of very indicative music cues that told me, you should feel weird about this moment. This is an ominous moment. This is a strange moment. There were so many things like that where I was a little bit like, I don't know. I think she may have bitten off more than she could chew. I mean, going from Booksmart to something like this, that is quite a leap. And Jeff, you've said it already, but this dude up there at the dog park, I'm trying to remember the exact sentence, but he basically said it felt like an expensive Black Mirror episode that they wanted to be better, but they ended up putting it in the middle of the season because it wasn't their strongest episode. I was like, I think I know what you mean.
That's on behalf of that guy.
Yeah. Well, because you're right. You were right, John, with that, in that it's not the most. None of these ideas are the most original. The simulation idea has been done a million times. For me, it was actually the DJ one on Black Mirror, where they play out the dating scenarios, and then they have that thing at the end where I don't understand it. I'm not saying in this movie we should understand things, and I'm going to be very, if you guys have seen this episode or whatever, and it's actually starring the barbarian, the lead in Barbarian. She's in this show where it's like they're trying to figure out, they go through these dating where they're paired together.
It's the one with is that the one with the repeated escapes and stuff, or the escape in the middle of it?
I don't remember.
I don't think so. It's just that they're dating and they have an expiration date on each person.
Oh, that one. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think so. And so like they're dating and they obviously are dating other people and it's all, but then at the end you almost wonder, was the whole thing basically like what happens if AI plays out our life to match us? Like, what if we actually played out all of the different scenarios? That's the way I interpret it, but I still don't even know. But it's like, I've seen this once years ago and I'm still thinking about it. I think this movie wanted to be that. And I don't know if she bit off more than she could chew. She just didn't pull it off. I think that's the simplest thing. So all of the ideas were great. And, people that are saying like, oh, it's a bad take on feminism, but you know what? She was trying. And I think it's so easy to say she didn't know what she's doing, because the Gemma Chan killing of Chris Pine makes no fucking sense. And the way she says, now it's my turn, makes even less sense. Like, it's almost like they cast Gemma Chan and they needed to give her more. And then afterwards they were like, we shouldn't have given her more, but we can't cut that out of the movie. It's almost like living proof on the screen that they didn't really know what they wanted. If you guys can give me one reasonable explanation as to why she kills Chris Pine at the end, then I will succeed. I will cede my points for the rest of the episode.
I mean, what I took away from that was she knows about the simulation, and she sat there and watched him fuck it up and fuck it up and fuck it up, and just, use it for male manipulation, basically. And finally, enough was enough.
Enough is enough. So what?
So
she's going to run the simulation now?
Yeah.
So they're going to start over again, and she's going to run the simulation.
But it'll be for women.
Get out of it.
But she just murdered him in real life.
And she can't get out of it because the guys put them in.
Well, we don't know that. If she's aware of the simulation, and because Florence Pugh basically got out at one point, and he had to put her back in.
This is kind of what I was trying to allude to. And again, it's not like I have my version of the answers. It was just the things that kept bumping for me over and over and over again. That subtlety and that ambiguity, and
it's easily
there's a time
missed.
and a place for subtlety and ambiguity when it helps tell the story, because you're going to fill in all these gaps in your mind. There were so many examples where her application of subtlety and ambiguity, I think, were a disservice, because it came off trying to be smarter than it needed to be to actually tell that story, trying to be smarter than it needed to be to tell that story. It was really just going to be a twist and reveal. I'm fine with that. We love movies like that. That's great. It doesn't need to have this absurd element to it. But if it's going to, do it. Go there and go all the way there and have us live in this place where we're not sure if we should even feel like we're watching something that is realistic. I feel like it was still in between those two things, which that's the bottom where you could choose. I'm sorry, but like, your work as a director starts when you're reading a script. When you're reading a script, and if her and her friend who wrote this made these adjustments, the first flaws were in their final shooting script. These things existed on the page. I'm sure of it. There's no doubt that they weren't. The red plane, that's written. This ending, those lines that you're talking about, all that's on the page. It's not like, let's see what happens, let's shoot it, and let's fix it in the editing room. So again, there were a lot of ideas here that were interesting, even though none of them are original. I don't care if they're original.
Yeah,
we tell the same stories over and over and over again, but I do feel like the way they were fleshed out, the way they were played out. I wonder if there's more footage that would have helped that they ended up cutting. They would have just revealed a little bit more information, because I think we all kind of knew what was up. Like, she knew something was up, we knew something was up. So just give us a little bit more info.
I'll let you finish that thought, but
yeah, sure. Jeff, you said something a minute ago that made me want to ask you a question about what you were talking about. Do you remember the last thing kind of flow you were talking about?
Of course not. Of course I don't remember. Of course I don't remember that. Right, but I will say one thing that I do disagree with one female critic who was very down on this movie and the feminist portrayals of it. Actually, like the romance of it early on, I was okay with. And I know, John, you said there wasn't a lot of chemistry, but as far as him just like going down on her when he comes home from work on the kitchen table and then breaking dishes, did it make total sense? No, but it was very intriguing. You know what I mean? It was curious. Even like the weird Chris Pine walking in on them doing it at the house. Like I was like, okay. In hindsight, with the simulation, that's actually something that could have worked.
That was,
you know?
I mean, that was a choice. She was in an interview and she was like, that was a deliberate choice. No man comes in this film.
And
I did notice
honestly,
that.
and I think,
No,
and that's,
yeah.
and that's cool, especially in the grand scheme of things, of whatever they're going for with this movie. But if Harry Styles trapped her against her will, obviously, and nobody's wondering where their surgeon went, and he's not going to go to jail for the rest of his life for doing that, which again are questions that are off the screen. We don't have to waste our time asking, even though that's wild.
After that last breath, so
yeah. Yeah,
you can write your. They didn't do the nice little wrap up scene like a promising young woman.
But the fact that this Joe Rogan bro, which I say in the derogatory sense, I understand that people listen to Joe Rogan. I've listened to Joe Rogan and it's been very fascinating, the things that I've listened to. I'm not hating on him because he's an anti-vaxxer and spread some misinformation on some of his episodes. But like, anyway, the fact that he just comes home from this fake work that he didn't go to and just like, he said, we don't need to eat. I can just go down on you. Like, that's actually, I feel like that at least is something in the right direction for, I don't know what they were going for, but I feel like that's something that could work. And I'm sure if the row of 10 people in front of me watching Harry Styles come home from work in a suit, drink a sip of whiskey and go down on someone on the kitchen table, I feel like that's something that definitely could work. And I think did work for this film, for the people that
that didn't,
you know what I mean?
That didn't bother me at all, especially when you learn, when you look back on it retroactively, that these fucking pathetic men with their insecurities who put these women in these situations, for the most part, I guess we're supposed to assume that most of them, the women didn't necessarily know.
He probably never went down on her in real life. Maybe he was worried about his sexuality, but in the sim, he's a hero. Like, I totally, that
the first thing they want to do is
great.
like feel like the man and go in there and have some. I did appreciate that.
Do you think
I
this
remember
whole
what
thing?
I wanted to ask you.
What?
Go ahead, Dave. Go ahead.
Do you think this whole thing was written from the perspective of how women see how men want them to be?
It was first written by men, which, in 2022, I guess these kinds of things that matters. But
I mean, but like, just look at the way things are going. Like, it's like with every decision that's made in this world, they're like, we're trying to revert to the 50s, basically.
I think if I were to guess, and I have no idea, if I were to guess,
I mean, I feel like that might have been a bit of a theme.
I think what they're saying here is that a lot of contemporary men who feel emasculated wish that women wish they were in the 50s because life was so easy. It's almost like guys wish that they could just lay by the pool and drink all day and stare at plants, but not garden, just drink. So why is it that women hated it when they did that? I feel like that was.
I think the most telling.
I don't think it was that at all.
I agree with both. Well, I agree with both of you that you can lift either of those themes, and the most telling in scene, maybe indicative, but the most telling moment was, I think, when he pointed out, when she figures it out, that you weren't happy. You were working all the time. And you were miserable. And she says, "Yeah, but it was still my life." Like so I think I think they were trying to comment on like this. It's not quite as simple, binary perhaps, of the responsibilities that these kinds of men. I hope they're not saying all modern men, but maybe the modern man who's really struggling with how to be supportive of women who are now dealing with the same kinds of struggles, and in the way that they would deal with it. That you're not supposed to fucking rescue them from their own fucking life. So I did feel like that theme was really clear, and I appreciated that. But it made me want more of that, and I felt like they just revealed that so quickly that I didn't really get to lift it for myself, like, and discover it and be like, oh my goodness, like that was, what a commentary. It was sad to me, and then it was over.
Yeah. I don't think they meant all men either, because like it was a very small community, although they did say they were about to extend the back row. So more men were coming.
I think it was kind of meant to be an allegory, though. I think it was meant to be an allegory.
I was, again, distracted. I was trying to think, like, is this allegory? I don't think I would go that far. I think they did a pretty good job of not making it feel like straight up allegory, but it was extremely metaphorical and thematic, especially when you show the man getting sucked down a YouTube video with some QAnon motherfucker telling you that, like, women need to know their place. Like, that was a powerful shot. I wanted more of it. I wanted to know a little bit more about how they took the leap from this is my video that I have on YouTube and you're listening to it, to here's advanced technology that I'm going to hand to you. How did he get those things?
Can I just say, Harry Styles, like, in his hoodie mode, looked a fucking lot like Evan Peters, who's doing
I thought you were gonna
Dahmer
go,
at the moment.
He
I
looks
thought you
like Dahmer. I thought you were going to
Yeah,
go.
I thought you were gonna go
Pattinson in
Dahmer, yeah.
Batman.
Yeah, it was
I
I was like, did they change the actor for a minute? Because he looked completely different.
Yeah,
I
that's,
think this
so
is-
did she, but
I think. Tell me if you guys felt this way. I'm not saying this was the only answer, but it was so clear to me how. Okay, when Olivia Wilde reveals that she knew that she was doing this because she had lost her children, all I could think about was, you should be the lead of this story. That a woman going through a motivator, an obstacle like that, to have to deal with, is this real or not? I feel like, and with the children as a motivator and the women like Florence Pugh happening in supporting roles, these themes of feminism and everything we're talking about would have been, I think, even more clear and even tougher to swallow because the obstacle would have been so emotional.
shit, dude. I think like that's where I'd have to agree. It would lean itself into an anthology series where you cover a different woman each season.
I mean, the series idea would have
And
been
their
great. 'Cause you know what would have been
journey
great?
into that. Like
What
that
would've been-
that would have
sorry,
been
David.
good.
What would have been great is a Desmond episode with Harry, which is what you're saying with Harry. We just get the one that they can have 12 episodes of all of the different Stepford wives, but then just the one episode down the hatch. Once you have that reveal, the next episode is, you know what I'm talking about with Lost? The end of season 1 is the hatch lights up.
although the Desmond episode would be the Chris Pine episode. Like, how the fuck did this, him and his fucking
Yeah.
Good point. Good
How
the
point.
did this
doctor
start?
dude like create this
Good,
shit?
good point. Yeah, of course, of course.
I don't know, but when
That's
Olivia Wilde
actually-
said that
I
to me,
don't
that was
think
the
so.
first time I had an emotional reaction. I was like, oh my God.
No,
that's
She
powerful.
nailed that scene.
You're right. That would have been good in a series. I don't think that would have been the right choice for the lead of this movie, but I wish that they did make a movie where that landed a better punch. Because at that point, it got so
Yeah.
formulaic where all the tropes just came into play, where it was like, okay, oh, she
Although in
knew.
my
I was like,
head,
okay, well, that's not, that makes sense that she knew and
I
she
did
wanted
think
it.
that,
That's why
like,
she was pushing back so
guess-
much. Stuff.
It made me think of WandaVision though, and I was like, that's so popular. Maybe you don't want to do that again because they kind of did that. But I don't know. I got really intrigued by the idea of
That's
how
a
much
good
do the other
comparison.
women know?
Yeah.
How much do the other women know? What are they going through to repress their power to be here? Or are they being held here out of their, not by their free will, like she is? And it made me so interested. And that scene in the cul-de-sac when she walks out made me so angry. What the fuck was that?
It was obviously
She
a Truman
walked
show.
out and she was
They
like
wanted it to be the
looking at these women and she was like, I'll look at you. Just like
Yeah.
Margaret did, by the
The-
way. Just like Margaret did at the beginning of the film and it didn't work. Why did it work when Florence did it? There was no
It
justification
was so
for that.
obviously the Truman show where he goes out and he stops traffic.
There
It was
was
so
a-
obviously that moment with the
there was a
music swelling.
There was a quick throwaway from Chris Pine earlier on about how she was special and she was going to challenge him, and there was something
That-
special
yeah,
about
yeah,
her.
the way it was
And
done,
that was it. That wasn't fleshed out, and they
The
just
way
went
it was
straight to
done-
things exploding. I didn't like that either.
The way
to
it
be
was
honest.
done, she should have picked the other women up in the car. Because the fact that she walks out into the middle of the, rather than just get in the car and go, as soon as Olivia Wilde goes, this is
Yes,
real. This
yes.
is really happening. You have to go. Her walking out and spending 2 minutes, like if she actually has her intelligence, which is high because she's a doctor, she would have gotten in the car and got the fuck out of there. And at best
And just
case scenario is she would have tried to pick up some women on the way, but to just go out and stare.
and just dramaturgically,
Yeah.
the stakes again, that scene between her and Olivia was good for me. I was like, oh God, like it's out of the box. We're learning everything we need to know. Get out of there, girl. And then the urgency just got taken away completely when she strutted out into the middle of the cul-de-sac. And then all right, now I'm going to transition to a technical element that I noticed at least twice. And I'm curious if you guys noticed it too. There were two times in this movie where continuity issues were so distracting that I know it's not supposed to be a real world, but I don't think these played by those rules. When she tears off in the car, when she makes her right turn onto the next street, she's going and she looks behind, and then it cuts and it shows all the cars behind her turn onto that street.
There were a couple of
And
those
then
in
she-
that last chase.
And then
yeah.
she cuts back. She looks back behind her and there are no cars. And then in their point of view, when it cuts to them, you can see her car like 100 feet in front of them.
There were a couple
That
of those.
distracted me. When Chen walks into the ballet studio, she walks across. We've all shot these kinds of scenes where there are mirrors, and how are we going to deal with the mirrors? She walks across the mirrors. The plane of the degree changes so that the plane of focus would have brought her across the mirrors, and she wasn't there. I'm just saying there were a few times like that where I was like, are they fucking with us? But they weren't fucking with us. That didn't turn into a visual theme where they were trying to play with what's real and not real. And I think they were just mistakes, and it took me out of the film.
You wanna know what took me out of the film and ruined it?
No, because you like the movie. No,
No, I love the
happens
movie.
in this podcast.
I love the movie. I thought it was great.
podcast.
But there was one scene where she walks in and there's a mirror that's blurred out, and you can clearly see a cameraman in shorts sitting in the fucking reflection.
I did not notice that.
Which scene was that, dude?
She walks in and she puts her arm up in front, hangs her jacket up. I think it was in the outside world. Yeah. But you can see
in the outside world.
You can see a fucking cameraman sitting there in shorts, like white shorts, with his head behind like the camera.
They had a year and a half to paint that motherfucker out.
And yeah, it was blurred, so obviously it was a little more discreet. But I spotted it right away. I'm like, what the fuck is that? Is that like a weird painting? But no, it's a fucking cameraman. Her arm's reflecting in the painting, in the mirror. Sorry.
Yeah.
This is one of those
There are a
things
few
where I am
technical
almost
issues.
wondering, did they do, it sounds so crazy to say, but like, did they do these on purpose to get people to notice the way that in Marvel
if
notice
they
these
explain
things?
that in
Like,
one of the
Disney with
interviews, they do it. It'll make me very happy. But
well,
yeah.
no, because that was meant to. That was just for them.
That was disgruntled employees. That was.
I mean, now it was like, well, maybe people would notice this, and then people are going to have to go back and either watch it or rewatch it to try to find the shit. Like, they had a year and a half, and they had Warner Brothers. They could have easily paid someone a couple $100, like Dave, to paint this motherfucker out of the screen. They could have easily
done it before.
that. Yeah, exactly. We're hating on this movie. I think so. If we were to say something good about the movie to wrap up here, because I think we got
I said a lot of good things.
We said a lot of good things.
I'm going to say what I said. I'm going to reiterate what I said earlier, because I am an avid film watcher, and I have often watched directors' entire canons from beginning to end, and I wasn't alive for the first 20 years of their canon. If 20 years from now some kid watches Olivia Wilde's movies, I think that they're going to be like, there was, that was a pretty cool movie. It wasn't her best, but that was pretty cool. I think what's happening with the context of the way this has been presented, it is getting people in the seats, because I think they want to see what's all the fuss is about.
30 million so far. It's got to be pretty good.
I think this movie's going to watch much better out of context.
And by that time as well, they'll have painted out the camera guy in the mirror.
Yeah,
and
like HBO, right?
Like Thor did when they released Thor. Like a lot of the visual effects had changed because they went back and did them again. When we did a rewatch of it with, I watched it with Therese, and I'm like, they've changed Heimdall's kid's head, floating head. It's like it was a totally different effect.
Anybody else think this is my last real criticism on the indicativeness of this metaphor that is this movie? When she looks over the edge of the cliff, that chase sequence and the explosion was not good. that whole thing with her, he was like, "Move, you idiots!"
Also,
and then she hits on the brakes, and it was no.
He has a pretty good car. Why did all of those shitty cars catch up to her car? Anyway, none
of it made sense. None of it made sense. All right, so she hits the brakes.
Also, wait. They had just shown us in 10 seconds you're leaving the simulation. I'm pretty sure they didn't all walk their way up to that building and then touch the screen. So I thought they just evaporated. So none of that didn't make any sense either. Okay, sorry, John, back to you.
Maybe it's literally like the glass ceiling idea, like it's different for the one. I don't know, but I was in my head. I got distracted. That didn't make sense to me.
In 10 seconds, you're out of the simulation. Only if you drive all the way up and then you run up the rocks, and then your cars somehow are going to be double parked on a cliff, and it doesn't.
I got the impression they were driving into the car park in the bottom.
Yeah, I don't know why she didn't go through Anyway, all of this stuff, yada yada yada. That's where Timothy Simons came out of.
John, you have an outstanding
my biggest anti-feminism moment was when, oh no, my car! And she turns into the side of the mountain when she's tearing it up there. That was ridiculous, and she didn't know how to back. That really bummed me out. But when she looks over the edge, I was like, if we don't know what this movie is about yet, when she looks over the edge,
and the entire fucking cast of Squid Game is coming for her.
The white men are coming. All these fucking Trump voter guys are running up the side of this fucking mountain in their red suits, and they all look like the exact same. Any given white guy in his 20s to 40s could eventually imprison you, and there's nothing you can This is their goal. I don't know. The idea of it again, it was it's a cool idea. I can see that storyboard shot and being like, whoa, that could be really powerful if we find the right edit. And it just felt like you created this problem for her, which was bullshit because she would not have crashed her car. There was no one right behind her. So that was like, just because you wanted to do that to give her another struggle. And then she like looks over the edge, and that, I don't know, that happened. It just felt like the last thing you put into the last flavor I got to have was that really indicative shot of, oh no, these men are trying to pull me back down into this. I just felt
I
like
think it's Truman show too, because he crashes the boat and she just could not get these things out of her head. It's like, make your own movie, because also if she does crash her car, she's smart enough to know, don't spend 30 seconds looking around. Just fucking run. It's right there. Like, it doesn't matter.
I don't like it when I don't like, Jeff, what do they always say in improv? Play your characters to the
smartest
top level of their intelligence.
Yeah.
And we knew who she was. It was like, dude, give me a fucking break. Like, anybody would not. I don't know. It just that frustrated me a little bit. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. There was lens flares aside. There was a lot of aesthetic. there was a lot of really rich aesthetic and art direction in this movie. I thought was like gorgeous. Most of the shots were really lovely. Like the composition and all the detail that they put into it, it did make me feel like whoever designed this simulation had a fucking good eye. Because like, this is fucking beautiful.
Did you notice like with the depth change when they were spinning, they were doing the spiral? Like the camera, when the camera went, well, a couple of times they did it, but whenever the camera went around everyone, it spiraled in like the city, like the town.
Are you talking about like when they were? Say that again. When they were moving around,
like when the camera was spinning around the group, so like they did those big circular motions, it got slightly closer every time, or slightly out, so it spiraled like the design of the town.
Like the design of the town. That's cool. Good. Yeah, that's good.
That's good, Dave.
There were some other motifs that I feel like I started to notice. Like the more this movie was going on, like again, it was shot well.
It's apparently based on this photograph, and actually they went to the house where the photograph was taken, which is called like Gossiping at the Poolside, the Poolside Gossip or something, which is just like two ladies in the 50s at the pool during the day. What you imagine is in the week, because there's no men around, and it's Chris Pine's house. It's like a famous house that's in they filmed most of it in Palm Springs, but this is in one of those places in California that looks like Nevada.
What did you guys think of Chris Pine? Like, that's kind of the only person we haven't really.
Yeah, good. Because I even liked this whole thing with the psychosis and stuff. In hindsight, that all checked out. And so his opening speech, I feel like was overly staged. And I feel like the Harry Styles thing, I feel like he did everything he could, because they kept cutting to him, and they were like, how many different times can you sound like a barker at a carnival? It's like, look at him dance. I can't believe he's doing that. Oh my God. Look at this. This is my employee. And it was weird.
What's up with the barrel rolls? what is that?
I mean, they knew.
Well, at that point, I started to wonder who's got control of him. Was he doing it?
Well, yeah, and also,
was Chris Pine driving him at that point? So Chris Pine can take control of anything he wants in the simulation.
Well, also, because in hindsight, it's like everybody gets their own day, so like, because everybody, obviously like the promotions are fake. So like at some point it's going to be somebody else's time, but yeah, whatever.
Well, no, I mean, they're not fake. It's like Second Life, dude. The open world.
It's just
like game, like where you basically create a life in this computerized world.
Yeah, I was just hearing this about as a Steve Bannon, somebody who interviewed Steve Bannon, but they were talking about how
people lost their house over that fucking thing.
Yeah, well, they're talking about like Dave from accounting died, and 3 people went to his funeral. Nobody knew who he was. He was a piece of shit. But Ajax died in a video game, and people took off from work, and 3,000 people showed up at the funeral. It's the same person. So these ideas are not new. The simulation ideas are not new. I think they do this with actors. With actors, when you're playing multiple characters, you have to storyboard both characters separately. And I feel like she should have storyboarded inside the world and outside of the world separately. And I feel like she didn't. I don't want to make a criticism, because she's so much more. Well, she's she's so much more talented than me. But I feel like she was going for these images and these homages and things. And I said my piece. You know what I mean?
Chris Pine, I think one thing that was crucially missing for me in what you're talking about, definitely some of the staging stuff. I mean, that doesn't help, but ultimately, I never sensed that kind of conflict in Chris Pine either. that might be necessary to show that, if I lose control over this world, what could happen? I never saw him have any
Right.
kind of struggle with that. So I'm not to compare him to
Ed Harris.
not to
from
compare
Truman
this
Show.
film or Olivia Wilde
Morpheus.
to a genius, but in The Master,
Oh yeah.
Philip Seymour Hoffman is playing a cult leader, and there's just enough flaws in his character that it makes you see the problems with following him. And it starts making you, what's brilliant about it is that it starts making you look at the people around them, and you realize that all the gaps, because of those flaws, they're filled in by these people around him,
Right.
the worshipers. And I kind of never got to see that from Chris Pine. And I kind of, because of that, if you're not going to show those flaws, all three of his speeches were the same speech for me.
Well,
I
I
never
think
learned anything about him.
I know this episode's dragging, but
We learned he's a really good fucking gaslighter.
He's a great
Yeah,
gaslighter.
he's charming as shit, but like you're even a better gaslighter if, like, with those character flaws, I don't know.
Well, I think, and then a part of the reason the press thing is curious from his perspective is he very clearly, I have a feeling he did that, and then they just didn't get it on screen. And I'm not sure if that's because Olivia Wilde stepped aside from filming or whatever. If those could be rumors, so we can throw them out. Who knows if that is true, even though.
Fill me in, you guys, because I haven't followed anything.
There are a lot of reports
that
that Florence Pugh actually shouted, "I'm directing this movie, not you," because Olivia Wilde was so smitten with Harry Styles that they would be like in the trailer, they would be running off. She would be following him around because she couldn't believe she was dating Harry Styles. She just got out of a relationship with Jason Sudeikis, like right before they started filming. As David alluded to, they got the custody papers. And if a man is suing for custody, that means that there's probably. So anyway, it got very messy. So speculation is key. Like we are speculating. Everybody's speculating about this. We don't know that is true. That on stage, and even Jason Sudeikis, which you can't take his, you know what I mean? But like apparently he said he was surprised that they would do that, and who knows if he meant to do that or not. But she got handed papers on stage. Like that seems fucking crazy. But it seems like she was so into Harry Styles that she did the thing that like teenagers do, where they're just like, oh, you're going to be 10 minutes fixing the lights? Well, I'm going to go visit Harry in his trailer. And then Florence Pugh is on the set being like, where is everybody? That is the rumor. Who knows how much is true?
What's going on with Chris Pine?
Oh, during the interviews, he just seemed checked out.
Yeah, he was. There's photos.
He's like falling asleep during interview, and Harry Styles saying
there's
like
photos
the
of
weirdest
him.
things.
Yeah, they're sitting there next to Harry Styles, and Harry Styles is, when they asked him about the film, he's like, yeah, just like it feels, it feels like a movie. It feels like a movie, and that was like he hasn't had any press training.
I sent it to you guys.
Yeah.
Well, he's had press training for other things. Also, he's in the middle of his tour now, and now he has to do these press events. Like he wasn't supposed to be in this movie. Very clearly wasn't. And they came out in the middle of him being in Venice. It opened in Venice during his residency in Madison Square Garden. So none of this is like it. His scheduler, his manager was probably like losing sleep over how the fuck they're going to possibly make this work. And Chris Pine is just sitting there in the back, and he's like, this is supposed to be one of those movies that I was in. I did the best I could, and I'm going to move on with my life. And now here I am in Venice, and I have to listen to this shit. And it's like,
and I mean, of course, Florence checked out of any publicity for this.
She didn't do any publicity too, which didn't help her case.
She was again,
like
she was
literally,
yeah, she didn't do any of it.
She was also filming Dune 2 at the time, but.
True.
There's some whole speculation about like that there was some beef there, like between her and Olivia over that whole thing. There was also a clip leaked by Shia LaBeouf as well, I believe. Where
there was a voicemail released.
Yeah,
but that was because Olivia Wilde said she fired him, which she didn't have to do. But she said he was fired, and he leaked the email, the texts, and the voicemail asking him not to quit. Like that's how petty this got. But at the same point, it was like, how could you possibly say that?
There was also a clip of her referring to Florence as Miss Flo, and this will show her and stuff like that. It was it all got weird.
Well, that's a shame.
Yeah,
I still think that people should go see it. It sounds like they had some drama in the making of it, and
yes.
I guess I'm kind of hoping that this will just age well, and we'll be able to look at it without all this bullshit around it, because that's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry for everybody involved if they had this much of a tough time making it. It sounds like it was a really cool idea and a good
Go and see it for
script.
Florence. She's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, I hope it doesn't sound like with all these criticisms, Olivia Wilde, please keep making movies.
Booksmart
Like,
was
this
so
is,
good, and
yeah,
she's
I mean,
talented.
come on,
This is a big reach. Satire's hard, sci-fi's hard. You know,
keep going. Keep going. I want to see more.
All right, we got to wrap this up. We've talked a
think?
lot.
all right,
Do it.
all right. Well,
Fuck you, John.
I'm sorry. I will record something else at some point, but that sound means it is time for our
It means
final.
whatever you want it to mean, honestly.
It means it's time for our final segment of the night, what you've been watching, where we give you our recommendations for the week. Dave, we always start with you. What have you been watching?
What have I been watching? I mean, what came out this week, dude?
Andor. How was
Andor.
it? Did you like it?
Loved it.
Yeah, me too.
It's gritty. Rogue One was one of my favorite, of the.
It's the best.
The very few anthologies that they made.
It's the best.
But also, it's a really good film. And that character, I was like, okay, we're going to explore that one. And then I sat down and watched it, and I was like, this is really, it's gritty, it's fun, someone referred to it as Star Wars for grown-ups.
Yeah.
It takes you right back to the beginning and how he got pulled into the rebellion and all that sort of stuff. So at the moment, he's a very flawed character, and we're going to go from there. You're getting a lot of his backstory, which is great.
Yeah. I agree with you. There was one or two of the teeny tiniest. I want to pick nits about two things that I'm not going to mention what they are, but what I will say, like that were like a little, they were like a little Disneyfied.
Might be a little trigger happy on this one.
Namely, her lover
Yes.
person. The way that ended, I was like, that's a little Disney. That was a little Disneyfied for me. But if you
They
guys
shot him in the fucking chest. How is that Disneyfied?
No. The fact that he flipped, she was pissed at him, and then he ran very clearly to his death, and then she got upset about it. Like that little sequence was very much like they just needed to wrap the storyline up to move on. Like they had this little storyline, they didn't need it to be over with it, so they're just going to kill him off. It seemed too simple for me. Sorry. And then there's one other thing. It doesn't matter. It's so fucking good. Tony Gilroy, who did one of the Bourne movies, I listened to a podcast. He's so thrilled. He spent 20 months on this thing. He's so thrilled. Kathleen Kennedy's, they're all in on the adult thing. And the first 3 episodes are one film. Watch the first 3 episodes in a row if you can. Sorry, Dave, back to you.
That was it.
John?
Nice. I need to catch up. I need to catch up on so many things. I was gone
if you have
this
an hour and a
weekend.
half, I highly recommend watching the first 3 episodes in order.
Yeah.
They're 30 minutes. They're 30-minute episodes.
They say 40 minutes, but there's a lot of credits and a lot of stuff, so they really are about 30.
Also, they didn't use the stagecraft stuff for this one. It wasn't shot in the volume like Mandalorian in the other one. They went full green screen, like full depth fucking backgrounds. They built sets.
It's cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I didn't nothing super. I think I still need to catch up. I think I'm still 1 episode behind you guys on Rings of Power as well. So
oh god,
feel free to talk about it, but don't spoil anything.
I think I'm 2 behind.
I'm not gonna lie, I watched a couple episodes of Entourage. I don't know why.
Okay.
That's what
I mean,
I'm
were they
referring back.
Ari Gold episodes? Because
He's intriguing, dude. I mean, he's the only reason to really watch that show. But no offense to everybody else, but he's definitely the best part of that show.
Yeah.
What have you been watching, Jeff?
I saw a lot this week because I had to fly, and we had so many delays and things that I just like downloaded so many things into my iPad. So some of them were iPad things with my nice headphones and such. But Andor, yes, Rings of Power, and House of Dragon. I thought both of them took a very small step in the right direction for me. But House of Dragons, I just saw the time jump episode. Really loved the opening of that episode. We'll see. And then Andor, of course, I just talked about. And then I rewatched Argo. I don't want to explain why, but I did, and it's pretty good. But it's very Halloween. It's cool.
Best picture worthy?
No. But I really just I just wanted the 15 minutes of John Goodman and Alan Arkin, and the opening was pretty.
The opening's cool.
It scared me. So if that's the intent, then I was worried for those hostages. So good on Ben for getting that movie open. And then I watched one other movie, and I'm trying to. Oh my God, this is really funny. Dave's gonna like this. I have never seen Deadpool 2 all the way through. I definitely watched the beginning of it, and this is true. I watched it on a plane, and the person next to me was reading a book, and I'm not kidding you. I watched it with subtitles on, even though I had my headphones on. and she didn't read her book. She just watched Deadpool 2, and she couldn't hear it. She just watched it and read the subtitles the whole movie.
Yeah.
To the point where
Was
I
it-
even
yeah.
Was
I
it
actually
the,
got really tired, so I paused it and fell asleep because I was so tired.
Was
and
it
then
the
I woke
extended
up-
edition?
Yeah, because it's not. Yeah, I downloaded the extended edition for sure.
Yeah.
And then I hit play, and then she picked back up like this. She didn't mind that I took a nap in the middle of it. She literally watched Deadpool 2 on silent the whole movie next to me. And
I mean,
really
that's the
fun.
best
I've
review
watched
for
so many
Deadpool
movies
2.
on planes with just no subtitles. I've just watched
will
it in silence. Just
I'm
watch the
gonna-
people next to me.
I'm gonna pick the tiniest bit of nits. I wish they went more referential. I wish they looked at the camera and made more of those jokes. I like them so much. Like the thing where it's like, no more speaking roles for you. I was like, I could use this in every scene. I could use one of these in every scene. I wish they went further with that. However, it's so good. And the jumping out of the plane sequence. I mean, like it's
Oh,
I mean,
X-Force.
that was the best fucking practical joke played on Hollywood ever, like played on the entire United States ever.
It's so good.
They had the cast list there, and everyone was like, "They're fucking doing X-Force, awesome!"
Yeah.
And like everyone got so excited. It was like I haven't seen a practical joke like that since again the end credits scene in fucking Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Bill Skarsgård, the way that the one guy just gets
it's
barked
so
on by the
funny.
acid bark,
Yeah.
like it's we don't want to see that now, but then they show it later. And then the luck, I think the luck thing really worked out for me too, where she's just so lucky. It was really great.
I mean, that's
The
legit.
little toddler lower
Legs,
body.
yeah.
with the contacts, and that was his and then at the end where he burns the Green Lantern script, like it was really funny. I could have used more. I wanted more Ryan Reynolds references in the movie, to be honest with you. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay,
Really
that's
funny.
enough about that. Thank you guys so much for sticking it out for our Don't Worry Darlings episode. Anything else you two want to say before we send the people on their way?
Nope.
Catch you next time, film fans. See ya!